Welcome to another installment of Hope's Beethoven Sonata series. This is a project dedicated to commemorating the composer's 250th birthday and educating audiences about his work through performances and interviews by Hope members. Today's sonata, the Opus 109 in E major, is special because it is our first episode on the sonatas that Beethoven wrote during his late period, which is the last of the three compositional periods that his works are categorized into. Affectionately known as late Beethoven sonatas, these last five sonatas embody particular intimacy and spirituality. Without further ado, let's get right into the interviews. We are so excited to hear from our amazing performers. First, let's give a warm welcome to our first and second movement performers.
All right, my name is Tyler. I'm a rising senior and I live in Temecula. I go to Temecula Valley High School.
Hi, I'm Riley. I'm a rising junior at Archbishop Meade High School, and I study with John McCarthy.
Hi, I'm Kira Lombard. I'm going to be a freshman at Oberlin Conservatory, and I'm going to be studying with Professor Peter Takach.
Since we're all in quarantine, what have you guys been up to? Feel free to talk about any projects or pursuits outside of piano.
Yeah, so I've been working an internship with Bank of America for the last 6 weeks. It's almost over now, and that's been taking most of my time. But aside from that, I've been trying to start college essays. I built a computer, and that's about it.
I've been doing a summer research program where we've been doing like machine learning with evolutionary game theory, and also I've been doing some like linguistics projects.
You guys do a lot. I've just been practicing a lot, honestly, and just having online lessons and trying to branch out in a sense in like the music community, but I don't do anything scientific, so kudos to you guys. I don't do that.
So what are your plans for the future? Do you plan on pursuing a career in music? This is super open-ended. You can talk about like 1 year into the future, 5 years, 10 years, anything you want.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to apply for a dual degree program for college, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Like I said, I've already committed to a conservatory, so my goal would be to be like a performing soloist, or yeah, I would love to give concerts.
Who are your favorite composers, and what do you think distinguishes Beethoven's music from that of other composers?
Bach, Beethoven, Brahms. I love all of the others, but I feel like they're on another level in some way. And for Beethoven, I think distinguishes probably, I think there's always this sense of hope in his music. And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's on this other dimension. It's hard for me to put it into words, maybe like dignity and nobility in his music, but also like very human empathy and freedom, if that makes sense.
What are your favorite Beethoven sonatas? And you're welcome to explain why.
109 is definitely one of my favorite, especially after learning it. I think I like it even more now.
109 is one of my favorites also, but I think I personally have a soft spot for 31-3 because it's just so like it's kind of cute.
I think this is probably a popular answer, but probably number 32. I mean, I just listened to it yesterday and I was like crying. I just can't, it's just like this, I don't even know how to describe, but I'm sure you know what I mean. I think I would have to pick that one, yeah.
Since Opus 109 is one of Beethoven's masterful late period sonatas, let's talk about late Beethoven for a bit. What do you find to be special, rejuvenating, or especially timeless about these last five sonatas?
So the last five are considered late, but I'd say the last three especially are like almost another like subcategory within that. And just like he was like more experimental than he ever was. And like towards the end of his life, he just kind of, I don't know, he kind of like bridged the gap between classical and romantic music.
What are your favorite parts of this sonata, or what are some interesting parts of it that you'd like to share?
My favorite part is the very end of the third movement. I feel like that's like the obvious answer, but like to me, like because he repeats the opening of the third movement almost exactly, like there's a slight variation, but I think like it's like when you play that, it's completely different from the first time, because like it's like you're thinking of all the variations, like the journey that you went through to get back to that point.
The connection between the first and the second movements, where he uses like like a note to connect it, and it's like such a like jarring difference between the first and second movement.
I think I really loved the moment right after the fugue, when he has, you know, it kind of reminds me of like a medieval chant in a way. I don't know if it's like maybe a little bit, I don't want to say cold, but not, I feel like he's not quite so intimate yet with it, but then by the time it comes back in the end, it's just like something you've been searching for, and it's just like the, like you said, the circle of life.
What are some technical or artistic difficulties you've had with this sonata? And how did you go about resolving them?
I think it just takes a while for the piece to sink in. Like no matter how much time you spend practicing, it just takes time to like marinate.
Several of Beethoven's sonatas have well-known nicknames that accompany them, as you know, like Moonlight, Tempest, Appassionata, Les Adieux, etc. And many of these nicknames were not directly given to the pieces by the composer himself. So in accordance with that, if you could provide a nickname for this sonata, what would it be?
Oh well, like where you get water from, because I don't know why. I think it's just like I was thinking of myself looking in like the reflection of the well and like thinking about what's happening.
Almost every Beethoven sonata breaks the classical sonata mold in some way or another. And this is especially true for late Beethoven sonatas, like 109. So in what ways do you think this sonata does that specifically?
Yeah, so obviously the structure is just completely different from anything before. And like he kind of adapts that same structure for like the next two sonatas, but it's very, very different from Hammer Clavier, even though that's considered late as well.
What are some recordings of Opus 109 that you would recommend?
I really like Barenboim's. I don't want to play like it, and it's kind of strange in some ways, but I still really like listening to it.
I think there are recordings of Schnabel, which I've listened to, and then Arau as well. And I don't want to be biased, but my teacher, Takach, his recording is really good. So, like, it's really, I love it. Yeah, and I think it's good, really good. Yeah.
Thank you so much to our fantastic performers for sharing their thoughts and experiences on this sonata. And to all you viewers out there, please enjoy their dazzling performances of the first and second movements. let us warmly welcome our third movement performers. Hello guys, it is so nice to see you guys. So the first thing to do is to briefly introduce yourselves, give your name, your grade, where you're from, teacher, or hobbies, or anything you want.
Hi, okay, I'm Shuhong. I'm from Michigan. I'm I'm not going to my first year of college. I'm taking a gap year, but I'll be attending Harvard College when I do. Obviously, I play piano, but other than that, I like to do a lot of other music stuff, like every once in a while composing, tiny bit of conducting. I like to play hockey. I like to exercise. I like taking walks, reading.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, but most people call me Soda. I am also, like Shuhong, taking a gap year, but I'll be attending Columbia in the fall of 2021. I study with Anna Semyonovsky in Mountain View, and I'll start this fall with Joseph Kalkstein in New York. In the future, at Columbia, I want to study math, and I do want to get a master's through the exchange program in music.
Hi, I'm Aaron Miller. I don't go to college, but I work at a college. I work at the Asia Pacific Center at UCLA. I live in Los Angeles. I studied with Hans Boppel at Santa Clara University, same teacher as Catherine. And I actually worked on this sonata with him when I was in high school. I believe I was about 17. So I've been coming back to it recently.
Hi, my name is Mihyun. I'm from Rowland Heights, California, and I'm currently studying with Rufus Choi. I really like to analyze English literature, and I like working out. I also occasionally draw or like take photographs of landscapes or nature.
Who are your favorite composers, and what do you think distinguishes Beethoven's music from that of other composers?
Obviously, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. Three of the big greats that started all. Brahms, Wagner, Scriabin, Ravel, Debussy, like so many. But I think what makes Beethoven particularly unique in the canon of composers is not just his historical significance and kind of transitioning from an artist who relies on a patron to kind of the romanticized individual artist that we have in our perception now, but in terms of just his music, it's an insane combination of the kind of Bachian craftsmanship that you find in like Beethoven's counterpoint, especially his development, his sense of structure. That plus just the raw passion he has, especially through his rhythms and dynamics. And I think especially his use of the keyboard is so it's so varied and dramatic and symphonic compared to like a lot of other composers that I think makes his music just sound so full and rich, even when it's just on one instrument.
If you could only play music by 3 composers for the rest of your life, who would you choose?
For playing, I think like Bach, there's just so much personal satisfaction in like getting it right and working out all the details. Haydn has so much good humor, and then Mozart is just beautiful throughout. So
mainly, I really like Chopin because I think that there's a lot of, as humans, we tend to deal with a lot of sadness and sorrow in our lives. And Chopin puts a lot of that nostalgic feeling into his music. So
I'm inclined toward maybe the Germans at the end of the 19th century and then the Russians in the first half of the 20th century. The one thing I think distinguishes Beethoven's music from that of other composers, and the thing that I'm most attracted to personally as like a listener and a musician, is that Beethoven was a structuralist, is like a term that highfalutin music theory people like to throw around, but it's just that it just means that he cared more about like motivic development. I guess people adopted this approach when neoclassicism became a thing in the 20th century.
What do you find to be special, rejuvenating, or especially timeless about these last 5 sonatas?
The last movement of all 3, there's a point at which like sort of the meter falls away, then like the rhythmic cells fall away, then even like the melody kind of just becomes very, not like minimalist, but very sparse, and everything sort of diverges into like this just like very visceral yet also transcendent, and as Mihyun and Shun said, like almost spiritual sort of just mass of like I hate to call it sound, but like that's almost what it becomes in like the finale of 109, but also of 110 and 111.
Yeah, I think a lot of the appeal of the late Beethoven sonatas is the way he experiments with form, and particularly you see in 109 these 2 extremely short sonata form movements where the sonata form is just incredibly compressed. Like all the emotions, every single measure has like new layers of emotion that emerge. And then the last movement, the variations, take longer than the first two movements combined. So in all three of the last sonatas, you see like Beethoven is moving the force of the argument to the last movement, which is kind of a trend in his late period, and would go on to influence composers like Mahler to write like long, slow movements at the end of some of his symphonies.
When you hear the theme, it's a simple quarter note rhythm, but yet there's a calmness that comes with age and maturity. And I think his later works are very important because they show very clearly that he's arrived at the end of his journey and he's become more reflective and spiritual.
Yeah, so the key takeaways I get from late Beethoven are that his music is especially contemplative and intimate. And like Mihyun mentioned, it's like a circle of life. The last stage is just like somewhat surreal, I would think. And it's so special that Beethoven chooses to be emotionally vulnerable with the music. What has been your favorite experience related to the sonata?
I guess my favorite experience with this piece would be something that hasn't happened yet. I would hope I get to play it in the Clyburn second round if I get past the first round in 2 years. But just in general, I would say it was really interesting to have learned the piece when I was a teenager and then come back to it.
Especially the theme in the last movement. It's really hard to like actually get it to be that calm and to get that spiritual feeling. So my teacher, I remember him saying, think of yourself as like an old woman who's reflecting in her past life. So then whenever I practice it or play it, I feel myself getting older a little bit.
What are some technical, or more importantly, artistic difficulties that you've had with this sonata? And if you want to also, you can feel free to share some interesting parts of it, for example, like structure or the third movement as a whole that you wish to highlight.
Yeah, and I think structurally, once again, I think it's really interesting to see how it kind of reflects on so many different forms. First, you have a kind of a saraband chorale type thing as your theme.
I guess technically what I had to work on for the longest was those double trills in the last variation. And like more specifically, like getting the trills to align with each other and with just the timing of the variation. Like Shun said, like restraining, but also like not dragging either. You know, there's like a very sweet spot that like where the trills fit together and it fits together with everything else going on in the movement. Artistically, what was hardest for me was the theme. Just, I think Mihyun touched on this earlier, but just getting the right timing and just being in the right mindset for the theme of that movement.
It's a challenge to find a conception in which each individual variation has its own character and its own emotions, but the whole feels like cohesive and like a natural flowing piece.
Wow, I have not played the sonata yet, but it already sounds like the two most difficult things are to just like get in the zone into that calm. It's not even a state of mind, it's a state of existence, and also to make it coherent even when the structuralism that Soda mentioned earlier is gradually dissolving in these last 5 Beethoven sonatas. So that's it for our interview. Thank you so much to our talented performers for sharing their insights and experiences with the sonata. And to all you viewers out there, please enjoy their touching performances of the third movement.